Hope you and your families made through Helene and Milton okay and safe. As you see, there's still tons of debris lined up down the street. This area had 2 storm surges come in. Today we're going to go through a seawall soil stabilization. We got through half of it before Milton hit. We were scrambling on Monday to get as much done as we could, and today we're back out here coming out to see how half of the wall did that we treated and the other half that we did not. We were able to treat the other half after the storm. If you're into tips on foundation repair, soil stabilization, crawl spaces, whether it's pre-construction, existing, lifting, leveling, and concrete, be sure to click subscribe and follow along as we go through everything from sinkholes in Florida to just weak soils to storm surge, erosion, foundation issues, and that's what we're going to kind of go through here today. First thing you'll notice that I'll point out, a lot of the trash you see out in the street is because it's storm water, dirty water, it's contaminated, and you can see here, I'm about 5'10". You can see here where the storm water was. So that water came through this whole area. And as we walk around, we'll talk little with differences with the 2 hurricanes. Fortunately, the house didn't have any real foundation or erosion issues. As we go back and take a look at the wall, I was mentioning there were few differences in the 2 storms. Hurricane Helene, had more storm surge, less wind, less rain, and a different type of storm surge where it was just the storm surge coming in and it slowly retreated out. Whereas in Milton, this was the area that we treated along here, and then with Milton, again, we tried to get done as much as possible before the storm hit so our families could get prepared. But with Hurricane Milton, the difference, if you recall, not only did we have storm surge, but we had the reverse effect where the water just sucked out under a much faster, higher pressure than with Helene. You can kind of see if you come back behind me, imagine all that water you saw when I was standing up at the garage up to this high, probably higher back here, coming in, and then all of a sudden now a reverse surge, all that water rushing back out under extreme hydrostatic pressure, rushing through this area, unfortunately, that we couldn't safely get to and treat before the storm. But thankfully the wall doesn't appear to be structurally damaged, so that water just rushed on through here, come around here safely. You can almost see like the channel that came through this area. So that water just rushed through. Water typically always takes the least path of resistance. So this was an area that already had a small break or a small gap in the seawall in this area. All that water rushed down, rushed through. We didn't have this installed yet. This was installed yesterday. So we did get back out as fast as we could to regain structural integrity on the soil on the back half of this wall. But you can see here, it's kind of hard to make out, but you can kind of see the water. I'll describe it here. It's darker sand over in this area where you did not have the washout. And then in this area where you had the washout come here and here, you see this big white sandy mound. And we'll swing around to the dock and see if you can see it, but you can kind of see the different coloration, and that's indicative of this different sand soil washing out into this area. And this is if you have a seawall, or they call it a bulkhead as well, on the intercoastal or canal, and you have any of these starting to get these little gaps and crevices in the wall, you can kind of see the one where most of that soil washed out in that general area. And that's also where you see most of the product that permeated out underneath that seawall cap and sealed up those cracks and crevices. But if you have a wall that's, we're going to walk now down the wall looking for some of the signs that called us out originally to treat the soil and protect this wall, and we'll go through the process that we did. But just wanted to come in. This is our first time coming here after the ops team after the storm. They mentioned that that did open up with the most recent storm. What we did, and we'll kind of start on this path, even before the storms, what the homeowner was having, and this may be typical to you, is you're getting little voids and you keep getting soft spots behind the wall. And you may have been putting dirt or something there for many, over time. Well, it's not a permanent solution, and that's what we do as a permanent solution that I'll walk you through. But as we walk down and do this quick follow-up from this recent storm, you're going to notice that there's no real soft spots. This was one where we injected the material previously, was a big void here, so that's held very strong. So as we walk down, you can kind of see, here was a voided spot. It's filled with the material. They still need to fill. They're waiting to the storms, fill all this with topsoil, get the grass to come back real nice. Also another area. But what the homeowner, you might be seeing as some signs of maybe the soil is becoming weak, you'll start to see these little hairline cracks up at the cap. You may see some areas on the back side of the wall where you notice these little sandcastle mounds, and that's indicative of the sand is slowly eroding out in certain areas, and it's piling. You might see it, in only certain spots along the wall. When the water's clear, that's indicative that there is soil loss. And if you're seeing those, it's very important. The two most simple things to protect your wall is good soil stability, number one, behind the wall, because as we go down there, you'll see the dead man that are starting to be exposed. That soil stability anchors and protects all the structural elements of the wall. The dead man is a structural element, and without the soil, they become loose, and that's why you'll start to see these cracks that the homeowner saw with the depressions, and it alerted us to come out and inject. It's a polyurethane, a lot of different terms for it, but really it's a polyurethane that we inject behind the wall, or some call it a permeation grout because it permeates through the soil. We'll do that upward staging, and we'll walk you through that process as we go through looking at the inspection. But all in all, this is great soil stability held up. And then the last part of the two simple things is hydrostatic pressure release. You see with all that water, thankfully, that may look like, oh wow, that's a big hole, and maybe that breach that we're going to seal up, we're going to put the state-of-the-art best hydrostatic pressure system in the market called a jet filter. That actually probably helped them in this case because it allowed some of that hydrostatic pressure out, and it kept the wall from actually just blowing out completely. But as you look through, everything is pretty good. I've been getting down here and looking along the wall, for any product or any sort of issues with the wall. Everything looks great. This thing held up for 2 storms. Again, we got out here on Monday, did the injections all along this section of the wall, and they're done probably about, on the seams, usually about 5 feet apart. Obviously, we focus on the void areas is usually a seam. That's usually where the soil erosion happens, on the seams of the seawall. Sometimes it's happening through, you'll see some holes in the seawall that they use to lift the panels, and sometimes they don't seal those up. But we'll inject. In this case, we measure the mud line, and that's where the seawall toe or the bottom goes down into the soil, which is usually about 1 foot. So we go 1 foot below the mud line with the injection rods, and then we'll upward stage, pumping the material up to about 1 gallon at each vertical foot, all the way up. So that's how we get a permeated, impermeable barrier that seals all these cracks and crevices and regains the soil stability. Just to show the power of the product, we treated that side of the wall before the storm. Unfortunately, we were trying to get as many seawalls done before the storm came as possible. We were not able to get to this section until after the storm, but you can see after the storm, we were able to get in here, pump the product. They'll cut this down to grade. It cuts out of the top here pretty easy. So we'll bring in some topsoil, but these are let me show you some of the dead man that I was referring to. You can kind of see one here. at this point, this metal rod from the top of the wall. And the cap of the wall is what gives the wall all of its structural integrity, and the tie back actually goes back and anchors it. You can probably see it right here, but it's starting, as you see, these go back, and we're going to get filtered in here quickly and probably do some additional soil injections, but we're able to get in this area, and you can tell through here where we did our injections, the soil is nice and stable. Here was a real soft area that's been sealed up. Yeah, the only dead man you can really see being exposed is probably this one here. Yeah, there we go. So it's coming back into here. And again, this may look like people sometimes call these voids behind the wall sinkholes, or they're not truly sinkholes. They're washout, even though it does look like a sinkhole. We haven't tested this geotech wise, but doing this a long time and looking at the signs and where all this came and the differentiation and the soil color on the outside, it's pretty clear that this was a washout situation. So again, if you're looking to stabilize the soil behind your wall, this technique, to give you kind of a monetary idea, probably saves folks in the neighborhood about 80 to 100% over having to do replacement by just maintaining the wall. Some folks say walls have a life expectancy of 50 years. We believe if you have good soil stability, a good pressure relief valve system, you can see upwards of 75 to 100 years if you maintain the wall well. Once we get this filled in, should be back at least on stable ground behind the wall. Right here, you probably see some of the product here, as well as in the crack down there. But yeah, it really gets into all those nooks and crannies and crevices, and permanently stops that soil loss. So you can stop kind of trying to do the DIY deal of throwing gravel and soil in there and it keep kind of washing out over the years. Give yourself a peace of mind and get soil stability behind the wall, and get a great pressure relief valve system, which is a jet filter system that we install, so you can see the longest life expectancy of your wall. Thanks for tuning in, and hope to see you on the next one.